My wife kissed her co-founder at the product launch and called him her true partner. I smiled, walked out, and destroyed both their careers with one email. She lost everything. And the hardest part? She still thinks it was about jealousy. It wasn't. It was about erasure. My name is Warren Ellison. I'm 49 years old, and for the past 7 years I've run a small architectural consulting firm downtown. Nothing glamorous, just designing commercial spaces and reviewing building codes for contractors who need permits approved. Before that, I owned a larger firm, sold it, cashed out my retirement, poured $340,000 into my wife's startup because I believed in her. My wife, Natalie, 46, was the CEO of Lumina Technologies, a smart home company that had grown from a garage operation into a $12 million venture. We had 2 kids, Owen, 21, studying finance at State, and Mia, 16, finishing her junior year of high school. The gala was at the Hartwell Grand, one of those glittering venues with crystal chandeliers and waiters in white gloves serving champagne nobody really tasted. Lumina was launching their flagship product that night. 3 years of development, industry press, major investors, Natalie's crowning moment. I wore the same navy suit I'd worn to every formal event for the past 4 years. Natalie wore a silver gown that turned heads the moment she entered. We arrived separately. She had a board meeting that ran late, or so she said. I was standing near the back of the ballroom, champagne untouched, when the lights dimmed and the crowd turned toward the stage. Natalie stepped into the spotlight, radiant and confident. Derek Vance followed, tall, silver-haired, the kind of man who looked like he belonged on the cover of a business magazine. They were Lumina's co-founders, partners, and for the past 8 months, something more. Natalie launched into her speech, vision, innovation, the future of connected living. The audience ate it up, nodding and clapping at all the right moments. Then she paused, turned toward Derek with something soft in her eyes. "I want to take a moment," she said, her voice catching with rehearsed emotion, "to thank the person who made all this possible, the one who believed in me when no one else did, my true partner in every sense of the word." She grabbed his lapels, pulled him down, and kissed him. Not a peck, a real kiss, the kind that makes people shift uncomfortably and suddenly find their phones fascinating. The room went quiet for just a second, that awkward silence where everyone knows something inappropriate just happened, but nobody wants to acknowledge it. Then Natalie pulled back, grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter, and raised it high. "To partnerships," she announced, her voice carrying across the ballroom, "that actually mean something." Her eyes found mine across the room. She was waiting for me to react, to make a scene, to give her the drama she wanted so she could dismiss me as jealous, controlling, the unsupportive husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. I smiled. Not a fake smile, not a grimace, a genuine, calm smile. Then I set down my glass, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the exit. No scene, no shouting, just footsteps on marble floors and the muffled sound of applause starting up again behind me. Outside, the October air hit me like a slap. I stood there for a moment, breath fogging in the cold, then pulled out my phone. The email was already drafted, had been for 3 weeks. Subject line: Investor Rights Audit Request, immediate review required. Attached were bank statements, falsified revenue projections, and one recording that would end careers and possibly trigger federal investigation. I hit send. 1 recipient, just 1. Then I got in my car and drove home. The gala would continue for another 2 hours. Natalie would keep smiling, keep accepting congratulations, keep pretending she'd just made some bold feminist statement about partnership and empowerment. Derek would bask in the attention, thinking he'd won some kind of victory. They had no idea what I'd just set in motion. By the time Natalie stumbled through the front door at 2 a.m., her phone would already be ringing, and the voice on the other end would change everything.
The call came at 3:12 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was still awake, sitting in my home office with the lights off, watching the driveway through the window. Natalie's car pulled in at 2:47. She stumbled getting out, heels catching on the pavement. The silver gown looked wrinkled now, less glamorous under the harsh glow of the motion sensor lights. I heard her fumble with her keys, a quiet curse, then the front door opened. She didn't call out for me, didn't check to see if I was home, just kicked off her shoes in the hallway and headed upstairs. The bedroom door closed, water ran in the bathroom, then silence. I stayed in my office chair, waiting. At 3:12, her phone rang, that sharp ringtone she reserved for board members and investors. Once, twice, 3 times, then it stopped. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time, she answered. Her voice was muffled through the walls, groggy, confused. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard the tone shift. Confusion became alertness. Alertness became panic. Footsteps overhead, fast, uneven. The bedroom light clicked on, spilling into the hallway. More footsteps. Then I heard her laptop open, the familiar startup chime. I stood up, stretched, and walked to the kitchen, put on a pot of coffee. The ritual of it felt appropriate. Measure the grounds, pour the water, press start. The machine hummed to life. Natalie came down 7 minutes later. Her face was pale, makeup smeared under her eyes. She wore an old college sweatshirt and pajama pants, the laptop clutched against her chest like a shield. She stopped when she saw me standing there, coffee mug in hand. "You're awake." It wasn't a question. "Couldn't sleep?" I took a sip. "Big night." She stared at me for a long moment, trying to read my expression. I kept it neutral, pleasant even, like we were discussing the weather. "Derek called," she said finally. "Did he?" I raised an eyebrow. "Bit late for a work call." Her jaw tightened. "He said someone sent him something, an email, with attachments. He's panicking." "Is he?" I set down my mug, leaned against the counter. "What kind of attachments?" Natalie's hands were shaking now. She opened the laptop, turned it toward me. On the screen was a forwarded email, subject line visible, attachments listed below. She hadn't opened them yet. Smart. Part of her didn't want to know. "What is this, Warren?" Her voice had an edge now, fear masked as anger. "Evidence," I said simply. "Financial documentation. Things Derek should review carefully. You both should." "Evidence of what?" I walked past her, refilled my coffee. "You know what, Natalie. You've known for months. The question isn't what I have. The question is what you're going to do now that other people have it too." She followed me into the living room. "Who has this, Warren? Where did Derek get this?" I sat down in my reading chair, the one by the window. "From someone who deserves to know the truth, someone who's been lied to as much as I have." Her face went white. "You didn't. Tell me you didn't send this to Carolyn." "She was very receptive when I reached out last month. Turns out she had her own suspicions about Derek, and when I showed her what I'd found," I paused. "She had some interesting information to share with me, too." Natalie's legs seemed to give out. She sank onto the couch, the laptop sliding from her hands onto the cushions. "You've been planning this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. 5 months, I confirmed, since I noticed the discrepancy in the Q2 investor reports. "You weren't very careful, Natalie. Same calendar you share with me, same email threads you forgot to delete." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "The party tonight?" That was the trigger, I said. I needed something public, something undeniable. You were kind enough to provide exactly that. Warren, please. Her voice broke. Real tears now, not the angry kind. We can fix this. We can talk about this. I stood up, walked to the stairs. Derek's phone is ringing right now because Carolyn sent him the full file. Bank statements, transfer records, emails about falsified projections during the Series B funding round. That one's particularly problematic since it violates SEC disclosure requirements. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, looked back at her. You wanted everyone to know what a real partner looks like, Natalie. Now they will, just not the version you were hoping for. I climbed the stairs, leaving her sitting there in the dark with her laptop and her panic. Behind me, her phone started ringing again.
Monday morning came with gray skies and freezing rain. I dressed in my usual work clothes, ate breakfast alone while Natalie stayed locked in the guest room, and left the house at 7 sharp. The roads were slick, traffic slow, but I didn't mind. I had time. My office was downtown, a small space on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse. I'd rebuilt my consulting practice here after selling my original firm 7 years ago, the one I'd liquidated to fund Lumina's first 2 years. I pulled into my parking spot, grabbed my briefcase, headed inside, set down my coffee, opened my laptop, started reviewing the documents I'd been collecting for months. As Lumina's founding investor, I had rights most people didn't know about. Buried in the original operating agreement, page 34, was a clause that gave me audit authority over financial disclosures if I suspected material misrepresentation. I'd written that clause myself when I handed over the check. Natalie had signed it without reading it carefully. Nobody remembers the fine print until they do. I was halfway through drafting my formal audit request when someone knocked on my door. "Come in," I called, not looking up. The door opened. Heels clicked on the concrete floor. I glanced up and froze. Carolyn Vance stood in my doorway. Early 40s, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, wearing a charcoal business suit. Derek's estranged wife. We'd met exactly once at a Lumina investor event 2 years ago. I remembered because she'd been polite, professional, and had left early with a headache. "Mr. Ellison?" Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red-rimmed. "I hope you don't mind. I got your office address from the company directory." I stood, gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Please, sit." She closed the door behind her, sat down with her purse clutched in her lap. "I wanted to thank you for what you sent me Friday night." "You don't need to thank me. You deserved to know the truth." Carolyn looked down at her hands. "Derek and I were together for 11 years. He promised the startup would be our future, our retirement. That's why I supported it, even when it meant sacrifices." She laughed, bitter and sharp. Turns out he was building that future with someone else. I sat back down, waited. People needed to talk sometimes, needed someone to just listen. "I have something for you," she continued. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope, set it on my desk like it weighed 100 pounds. "Financial records, transfer documentation, emails between Derek and venture capital contacts discussing inflated valuations." I picked up the envelope. What exactly am I looking at? "Evidence." Carolyn's voice hardened. Derek wasn't just having an affair. He was funneling investor money into personal accounts, falsifying projections to keep funding coming. Your wife was copied on those emails. She knew what he was doing. My pulse quickened. This was bigger than I expected, bigger than exposing an affair. This was career-ending, possibly criminal. "Why are you giving this to me?" Carolyn met my eyes.
I tried to report him 2 years ago. The board buried it, said I was a bitter ex-wife making accusations. I lost my credibility, almost lost my mind. She stood up. Now I'm giving you the weapon I never had. You are the founding investor. You have rights I never did. Use them. She walked to the door, then paused. Your son contacted me 2 weeks ago. Owen. He's a good kid, smart. He figured out what was happening and wanted to help you. I told him to stay out of it, but he insisted on sharing some information he'd found. My throat tightened. What information? Financial discrepancies he noticed in the quarterly reports, email threads your wife forgot to delete from the family account. She smiled, tired and sad. He loves you very much, Mr. Ellison. You should be proud. Then she left, closing the door quietly behind her. I sat there, holding the envelope, my mind racing. Owen had known, had been helping me without my knowledge. My 21-year-old son, who should have been focused on finals and internship applications, had been gathering evidence against his own mother. I opened the envelope. Bank statements, email chains, transfer records, everything I needed to make sure Natalie and Derek never worked in corporate America again. My phone buzzed. Text from Owen. Dad, I found something else. The offshore account has Lumina board members listed as beneficiaries. This goes higher than Derek and Mom. I typed back. How high? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. High enough that when this breaks, it won't just be them that fall. It'll be everyone who knew and said nothing. I gathered the documents, mind made up. What started as a husband exposing betrayal had become something else entirely, and I was just getting started.
Tuesday afternoon, I filed the formal audit request. The document was 12 pages long, citing my rights under Section 7.3 of Lumina's original operating agreement. As the founding investor, I had authority to request independent review of financial disclosures if I suspected material misrepresentation affecting shareholder value. I'd written that clause myself 7 years ago. Natalie had signed it without a second glance, too excited about the money to read the fine print. Nobody remembers the fine print until it destroys them. By Wednesday morning, 3 things happened in quick succession. First, Lumina's primary venture capital partner sent an email to the board. Subject line, investment review, temporary hold. They were one of the company's largest backers, responsible for $4.2 million of the Series B funding. The email was professional, vague, citing internal due diligence protocols and pending clarification of financial disclosures. I'd spoken with their managing partner Tuesday evening, a woman named Patricia Holloway, who I'd met at an investor dinner 2 years ago. She remembered me. More importantly, she remembered that I was the one who'd introduced her to Lumina in the first place. When I explained I was exercising my audit rights and had concerns about revenue projections, she understood perfectly. The hold wasn't permanent, just pending, but pending was enough. Second, the product launch got delayed. 3 weeks of momentum, gone overnight. The tech press that had celebrated Natalie's vision on Friday was now asking questions about internal restructuring and leadership concerns. Third, Derek Vance resigned from the board. The announcement came at 4 p.m., buried in a press release about pursuing new opportunities. No mention of the affair, no mention of the financial irregularities, just corporate language designed to make a scandal look like a career transition. But I knew what it really meant. Derek was running, trying to distance himself before the investigation got too close. Natalie called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. Her voicemail started angry, became desperate, then turned threatening. She accused me of sabotage, of jealousy, of trying to destroy everything she'd built because I couldn't handle her success. She still didn't understand. This was never about her success. I wanted her to succeed. I'd sacrificed everything to help her succeed. This was about the fact that she'd erased me completely, stood on a stage in front of 400 people and credited another man for everything I'd given her. My money, my retirement, my belief in her when nobody else would take the risk. And she'd kissed him, called him her true partner, while I stood in the back of the room like a stranger. Thursday morning, my phone buzzed. Text from Owen. Dad, the SEC opened a preliminary inquiry. Someone at the venture capital firm flagged the discrepancies in the Series B filings. This is going federal. I stared at the message for a long time. Federal investigation. That meant lawyers, depositions, possibly criminal charges. I'd wanted consequences. I'd wanted Natalie and Derek to face the truth of what they'd done. But this was bigger than I'd planned, bigger than an affair, bigger than financial manipulation. This was the kind of thing that destroyed lives permanently. My phone rang. Natalie again. This time, I answered. Warren. Her voice was raw, destroyed. Please, we need to talk. In person. Tonight. I don't think that's a good idea. The company is falling apart. Derek resigned. The investors are pulling out. The SEC is asking questions. She paused, her breath shaky. Please, whatever you want, I'll do it. Just make this stop. I looked out my office window at the gray sky. I can't make it stop, Natalie. I just opened the door. What's walking through it now is beyond my control. Warren, you should talk to a lawyer. A good one, because this is going to get worse before it gets better. I hung up before she could respond, and for the first time since this started, I felt something other than calm satisfaction. I felt the weight of what I'd done.
Friday evening, I came home to find Mia waiting for me in the living room. She was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, face blotchy from crying. Her backpack was on the floor beside her, still zipped. She hadn't even gone to her room. Mia, I set down my briefcase. What's wrong? You know what's wrong. Her voice shook with barely contained fury. Everyone at school is talking about it. Mom's company is all over the news. They're saying she committed fraud. They're saying she might go to jail. I sat down in the chair across from her. Where did you hear that? The internet? My friends? Everyone. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Someone's dad works at the investment firm. He told his wife, and she told everyone, and now the whole school knows my mom is a criminal. Mia, is it true? She demanded. Did you do this? Did you send those emails? Did you report her to the investors? I held her gaze. Yes. The word hit her like a physical blow. She flinched, then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. Hatred. How could you? She whispered. She's your wife. She's my mother. How could you destroy her like this? I didn't destroy her, Mia. She made choices. I just made sure those choices had consequences. That's such garbage. Mia stood up, pacing the room. You're jealous. You're threatened by her success. You couldn't handle that she was more successful than you, so you found a way to tear her down. The accusation stung more than I wanted to admit. Is that what she told you? She didn't have to tell me. I can see it. You've always resented her career, always made little comments about how much time she spent at work, and now that she's finally made it, you're punishing her. Mia, sit down. No, sit down. Something in my voice made her stop. She sank back onto the couch, arms still crossed, jaw tight. Your mother kissed another man on stage in front of 400 people. She called him her true partner. She's been having an affair with him for 8 months, and during that time, she and Derek were falsifying financial reports to keep investor money flowing into accounts that benefited them personally. Mia shook her head. You're lying. I'm not. I have documentation, bank records, emails, everything. Then show me. I studied her face. The defiance, the desperate hope that I was wrong. No, I said finally. You're 16. This is between your mother and me. You don't need to see the evidence. Because it doesn't exist. Because I'm trying to protect you. Mia laughed, bitter and sharp. Protect me? You're destroying my family and you think you're protecting me? She grabbed her backpack, stormed towards the stairs. Mia, wait! I'm calling Mom. She didn't look back. I'm telling her everything you just said, and then I'm going to help her fight you. Her bedroom door slammed so hard the walls shook. I sat there in the empty living room, listening to her muffled voice through the ceiling, already on the phone, already choosing sides. What would you do if your own child blamed you for consequences someone else earned? My phone buzzed. Text from Owen. Dad, I need to tell you something. Mom called me yesterday. She knows I helped you. She found old texts on the family phone plan. I typed back, how is she handling it? 3 dots. Then, she's furious. She said if I don't help her fix this, she's cutting me off. No more tuition help. No more support. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. But Dad, there's something else. Her mom asked Mia to look through your office, to find documents, anything she can use against you. I looked up at the ceiling, at my daughter's room, at the muffled sounds of her conversation with her mother. My wife had turned my daughter into a weapon. The question was whether Mia would pull the trigger.
Saturday morning, I found Owen waiting on my doorstep. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes. He'd driven 3 hours from state to get here, and from the look of him, he hadn't slept the night before. Dad, he hugged me, tight and brief. We need to talk. I let him inside, made coffee. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd shared thousands of meals with Natalie over 19 years of marriage. Tell me everything, I said. Owen wrapped his hands around the mug. Mom's been calling me every day since the party. At first, she was angry, said I betrayed her, said I was choosing you over her. He paused. Then she got strategic. Strategic how? She started offering things, said she'd pay off my student loans if I helped her discredit the evidence, said she'd buy me a car, an apartment after graduation. He shook his head. When that didn't work, she threatened to cut me off completely. What did you say? I told her no, every time. Owen looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't expected. Pride. I told her what she did was wrong, the affair, the financial stuff, all of it, and that I wasn't going to help her cover it up. My throat tightened. Owen, I know you didn't ask me to help Dad, but I saw what was happening. I saw how she treated you, like you didn't matter, like everything you gave up for her meant nothing. His jaw tightened. Someone had to stand up for you, even if it was just me. I reached across the table, gripped his shoulder. I'm proud of you, son, more than you know. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Owen's expression darkened. There's more. Mom's not just trying to bribe me. She's working on Mia. I know. Mia confronted me last night. It's worse than you think. Owen pulled out his phone, showed me a text thread. Mia's been sending Mom photos of your office, your desk, your filing cabinet. Mom's been telling her exactly what to look for. I scrolled through the messages. My daughter's words, her mother's instructions, a coordinated effort to find anything that could undermine my evidence. She's 16, I said quietly. She doesn't understand what she's doing. She understands enough. Owen took back his phone. Mom's using her dad, turning her into a spy, and Mia's so desperate to believe Mom's innocent that she's going along with it. If you're still watching, this is exactly why staying subscribed matters, because the truth behind closed doors is rarely what anyone expects. What do I do? I asked. Owen leaned forward. Let her take something that looks important but isn't. Let Mom think she won, and then watch what happens next. I stared at my son, 21 years old,
thinking 3 moves ahead. I had learned that from me. I just never thought I'd be using those lessons against my own family. "There's a folder in my office," I said slowly. "Financial documents, legal papers, all of them carefully prepared, all of them meaningless." Owen nodded. "Leave it somewhere Mia can find, and wait." That night, I left the folder on my desk, unlocked the office door, went to bed early. At 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. Light, careful, trying not to wake me. My daughter, creeping through the darkness to betray me for her mother. I lay there in the silence, listening to the soft sounds of papers being shuffled, a drawer opening, a phone camera clicking. Then the footsteps retreated, Mia's bedroom door closed, and I knew exactly what would happen next.
Sunday morning, I was in my study reviewing documents when Mia appeared in the doorway. She looked different than she had Friday night. The anger was gone, replaced by something more complicated. Confusion, guilt, fear. "Dad?" Her voice was small. "Can we talk?" I set down my pen, gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Sit." She closed the door behind her, sat down with her hands clasped in her lap. For a long moment, she just stared at the floor. "I know you heard me last night," she said finally. "In your office, going through your things." I waited, let her talk. "Mom asked me to look for documents, anything that could help her case. She said you were lying about everything, that you fabricated evidence, that if I could find proof, she could fight back." "Did you find what you were looking for?" Mia's jaw tightened. "I took pictures of everything in that folder, sent them to Mom. She was so excited, said it was exactly what she needed." "And then?" "And then her lawyer looked at them." Mia's voice cracked. "He said they were useless, outdated contracts, old tax returns, nothing that could help her." She looked up at me, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You knew, didn't you? You left that folder there on purpose." "Yes." "Why?" I leaned back in my chair. "Because your mother needed to see what she was doing to you, turning you into a spy, making you choose between your parents, putting you in a position where you could get in serious trouble. I was trying to help her." "I know, but helping her meant betraying me, and that's not a choice any 16-year-old should have to make." "She's losing everything, Dad. Her company, her reputation, maybe her freedom, and I can't do anything to stop it." "No, you can't." I stood up, walked around the desk, sat in the chair beside her. "Mia, your mother made choices, bad ones, and those choices have consequences that neither you nor I can control. She says you're destroying her. Her own actions are destroying her. There's a difference." Mia was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I read some of the articles online about the financial stuff, the falsified reports. Is it true? Did she really do all that?" "Yes." "And she knew it was wrong?" "Yes." Mia nodded slowly, something shifting behind her eyes, the desperate hope that her mother was innocent, finally cracking. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for going through your office, for believing her, for blaming you." I reached out and squeezed her hand. "You were trying to protect your mother. I understand that. But from now on, I need you to stay out of this. Let the lawyers handle it. Let the process play out." "What's going to happen to her?" "I don't know, but whatever happens, you'll always have a home with me. Always." She nodded, wiped her face again. "Dad?" Her voice was barely audible. "Do you still love her? Mom, I mean, even after everything?" I thought about the question, about 19 years of marriage, about the woman I believed in, sacrificed for, trusted completely. "I loved who I thought she was," I said finally. "But that person might never have existed, and I'm still figuring out how to live with that." Mia stood up, hesitated, then hugged me, brief and tight. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart."
She left, closing the door quietly behind her. I sat there in the silence, feeling something shift inside me. My daughter had come back. Not completely, not yet, but she was finding her way. And that was enough, for now.
Monday morning brought the news everyone had been waiting for. Owen called at 8:15, his voice tight with barely contained shock. "Dad, it's everywhere. Turn on the news." I grabbed my laptop, pulled up the business headlines. The story was impossible to miss. SEC opens formal investigation into Lumina Technologies. Multiple executives face securities fraud allegations. The article was carefully worded, legally vetted, but the implications were devastating. Lumina's board had suspended operations pending investigation. Derek Vance was named as a primary target, with allegations of falsified investor reports and misappropriated funds. And Natalie's name appeared in the third paragraph, listed among executives who may have had knowledge of material misrepresentations. "How bad is this?" Owen asked. "Bad." I scrolled through the article. Federal investigation, possible criminal charges. This isn't just career ending. This could mean prison time. For Mom? Possibly. Depends on what they can prove about her involvement. Silence on the line. Then, "I know she did wrong, Dad, but prison? That's—" "I know." I closed the laptop. I didn't plan for it to go this far. I just wanted the truth to come out. "Do you regret it?" I thought about the question, about Natalie's face at the party, about the kiss, about 19 years of marriage erased in a single public moment. "I regret that it was necessary," I said, "but no, I don't regret the truth." By noon, 3 more developments hit. First, Derek Vance was arrested. Not just questioned, arrested. Federal agents showed up at his house with a warrant. The footage was all over the news. Derek in handcuffs, being led to a black SUV, his face pale and stunned. Second, Lumina's remaining investors filed a civil lawsuit, $12 million in damages, claiming breach of fiduciary duty and fraudulent misrepresentation. The company that Natalie had built from nothing was being torn apart piece by piece. And third, Natalie's name started trending on social media, not for her innovation, not for her success, for her downfall. Some people would say I went too far. Others would say I didn't go far enough. Which side are you on? My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Ellison?" A woman's voice, professional but cold. "This is Catherine Walsh, Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. I'd like to discuss your cooperation in our investigation." "I'm listening." "We've reviewed the documentation you provided through various channels. It's been instrumental in building our case. We may need you to testify about the timeline of your discoveries, when you first noticed irregularities, what steps you took. I'll cooperate fully, through my attorney." "Of course." A pause. "One more thing, Mr. Ellison. Your wife is currently being interviewed by our investigators. She's claiming the evidence was fabricated, that you manipulated timestamps and created false documents to frame me." My grip tightened on the phone. "That's not true." "We know. The metadata is clean. The bank records are verified. But I wanted you to be aware of her defense strategy." Another pause. "She's also claiming emotional abuse, saying you controlled her, isolated her, that the affair was her way of escaping a toxic marriage." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Of course she is." "We don't put much stock in those claims given the evidence, but you should prepare yourself. This is going to get ugly before it gets better." After she hung up, I sat in my office staring at the wall. Natalie was fighting back, not with truth, but with lies, trying to paint me as the villain to save herself. And the hardest part was knowing that some people would believe her.
Wednesday evening, Natalie came to the house. I watched through the window as she parked her rental car in the driveway. The Mercedes was gone. Repossessed or sold, I didn't know. She sat there for a moment, gathering herself, then walked to the front door. She looked different, thinner, older. The confident woman who'd kissed Derek on stage 2 weeks ago was gone, replaced by someone hollow and desperate. I opened the door before she could knock. "Thank you for seeing me," she said quietly. I stepped aside, let her in. She walked past me into the living room, stood there looking around like a stranger in a place she'd lived for 19 years. "Coffee?" I offered. "No, thank you." She sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped in her lap. "Warren, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Go ahead." "Did you plan this from the beginning? The evidence, the timing, everything? Was this all calculated?" I sat down in the chair across from her. "I started documenting 5 months ago when I found the discrepancy in the investor reports. I hoped you'd end things on your own, but you didn't. You escalated, and the party was the final confirmation that our marriage was over." Natalie's eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake, Warren, a terrible mistake. But did I really deserve this? Losing my company, facing federal charges, losing everything?" "You didn't just make a mistake, Natalie. You broke laws. You falsified documents. You stole from investors. You humiliated me publicly." I met her eyes. "Those actions have consequences." "The lawsuit," she whispered. "The civil damages. They're asking for $12 million. My lawyer says I could be personally liable for at least $4 million. I don't have that kind of money. They'll take everything." "I know. Is that what you want? To see me destroyed?" I leaned forward. "What I wanted was for you to respect our marriage, to respect me, to be honest. You couldn't do any of those things. So yes, I documented everything. Yes, I made sure the right people knew. But you're the one who did the actions, Natalie. You destroyed yourself." She wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Mia barely speaks to me now. Owen won't return my calls. I've lost everything. My company, my reputation, my children." "You haven't lost them, Natalie. They're confused, hurt, but they still love you." "Do they?" Natalie laughed, bitter and broken. "I used Mia to spy on you. I tried to bribe Owen into betraying you. What kind of mother does that?" "A desperate one." She stood up, paced to the window. "I came here to ask for something. I know I have no right, but I'm going to ask anyway." "What?" "When this is over, when the creditors come after me, I'll have nothing. No savings, no retirement, no place to live." She turned to face me. "I need help, Warren. Something, anything, so I have a chance to start over." I studied her face, the desperation, the exhaustion, the woman I'd loved for 19 years, reduced to begging. I stood up, walked to my desk, pulled out an envelope. "This is a trust agreement, $200,000, invested conservatively. It'll generate about $1,500 a month, enough for rent, food, basic expenses." Natalie stared at the envelope like it might explode. "What's the catch?" "No catch. It's anonymous, managed by a third party. You'll never access the principal, just the monthly distributions, and you can never know where it came from." "Why would you do this?" "Because you're the mother of my children, because despite everything, I don't want you homeless, and because someday, when Mia asks me if I destroyed you completely, I want to be able to say no." Natalie took the envelope with shaking hands, opened it, scanned the documents. Tears streamed down her face. "I don't deserve this." "No, you don't, but I'm giving it to you anyway." She looked up at me, mascara running, face blotchy. "I loved you, Warren, at the beginning. I really did." "I know, but love without respect is worthless. You stopped respecting me years ago, and I was too comfortable to do anything about it until you forced my hand." "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for all of it. I'm so sorry." "I believe you, but sorry doesn't fix what's broken." Natalie nodded slowly, clutched the envelope to her chest. "Tell the kids I love them," she said, "even if they don't want to hear it right now." "I'll tell them." She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "Do you know what the worst part is?" she said quietly. You were right about everything, and I was too arrogant to see it." Then she left, closing the door softly behind her. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door, feeling the weight of 19 years finally begin to lift.
18 months later, I stood in the driveway of a new house, watching Owen and Mia carry boxes inside. Spring sunshine warmed my face. Birds sang in the oak trees lining the street, and for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The divorce had finalized in April. Natalie received the trust fund payments, found a small apartment across town, and took a job as a marketing consultant for a nonprofit. Smaller than what she'd had, quieter, but it was something. The Lumina lawsuit settled for $3.2 million. She'd be paying it off for the next 15 years, but at least she wasn't facing prison time. The prosecutors focused their case on Derek, who pleaded guilty to securities fraud and received 3 years in federal custody. His wife Carolyn got the house, the savings, and the satisfaction of watching him lose everything he'd built on lies. Owen graduated in May, landed a financial analyst position in the city, making good money at a firm that valued integrity. He called me every Sunday without fail. Our relationship, strained during the worst of it, had healed into something stronger than before. Mia had been harder. She'd spent months caught between anger and guilt, torn between loyalty to her mother and the truth she couldn't ignore. But slowly, as the facts became undeniable, she'd started coming around. She was living with me now, finishing her senior year at a new school, talking about studying psychology in college. "Dad, where do you want this?" Mia called from the doorway, holding a box labeled office supplies. "Study at the end of the hall," I called back. "I'll organize later." She disappeared inside. Owen emerged a moment later, wiping sweat from his forehead. "That's the last of the heavy stuff," he said. "Movers got most of it, but I wanted to make sure your desk made it in one piece." "Thanks, son. I appreciate it." We stood there in comfortable silence, watching Mia through the window as she unpacked boxes in the living room. "You happy?" Owen asked. "Getting there," I said. "It's been a long road." "Mom called me last week. She asked about you." "How's she doing?" "Better, I think. She's in therapy now, finally dealing with everything." He paused. "She wanted me to tell you thank you. For the trust. She figured out it was you." "How?" "The monthly amount. It's exactly what you used to set aside for her personal spending when you were married. She said only you would remember that number." I smiled slightly. "Smart woman." "She also said to tell you she's sorry, again, for about the 100th time." "I know she is." Owen studied me. "Do you ever miss her? The good parts, I mean, before everything fell apart." "Sometimes," I admitted, "but you can't live in the past. You can only learn from it and move forward." "That's very philosophical, Dad." "I'm old. I'm allowed to be philosophical." He laughed, punched my shoulder lightly. "Come on, let's finish this before Mia reorganizes everything according to some system she found online." We walked inside together. The new house smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Smaller than the old place, but mine, truly mine. No memories of arguments in the kitchen, no ghost of Natalie's perfume in the hallway. Just clean walls and new beginnings. That evening, after Owen left for his apartment and Mia went to bed, I sat on the back porch with a drink, watching the stars come out. My phone buzzed. Text from Carolyn. "Heard you closed on the new place. Congratulations." I typed back, "Thanks. How are you?" "Good. Finally good. Started my own consulting firm, using everything I learned to help other companies avoid the same mistakes. It's terrifying and exciting." "That's great, Carolyn, really." "Coffee sometime? As friends, just to catch up." I looked up at the stars, thought about second chances, about what comes after the wreckage clears. "Yeah, I'd like that." Inside, I heard Mia moving around, getting ready for bed. My daughter, who'd chosen to stay with me, who'd forgiven me for the hard choices I'd made, who was learning that sometimes the right thing and the easy thing aren't the same. I'd lost a marriage, lost 19 years, lost the comfortable life I'd built, but I'd gained something too: self-respect, honesty, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself when it mattered most. The stars shone bright above me, and the future, uncertain as it was, felt wide open. Have you ever realized that love without respect was just a comfortable lie you'd been telling yourself for years?